Hello, welcome to Glendale Today. I'm Councilmember Jamie Aldama, and I represent residents living in the Ocotillo District. The Ocotillo District is located right in the heart of Glendale. On today's program, we're going to talk about the general plan and some exciting new projects taking place in the Ocotillo District. My guest today is Jon Froke, Planning Director, who has been with the city for many years. Welcome, Jon. Thank you for joining me today.
Councilmember Aldama, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Jon, tell us what you and your staff do in the Planning Department.
Yeah, we're over the Planning and Zoning Department. We handle all new development and redevelopment projects throughout the city. So if you're a resident or a guest in visiting Glendale and you see a new development project on the corner being built, it usually would have gone through my department first, and then it would transition into building safety and then eventually into permits. So we're really at the front end of all new projects, whether it's brand new from the ground up, or let's say an existing building. You have the downtown area in the Ocotillo District. We have a lot of existing buildings that the property owners want to go through redevelopment or refurbishment. Usually that will go through my department in some fashion as well.
Before we begin talking about the general plan, I want to touch on citizen participation. Our city has a reputation of devoted citizen participation, and much of it is because of boards and commissions. I know the Planning Department staffs the Planning Commission. Does your department interact with any other boards and commissions, and what are their roles, Jon?
Thank you, Councilmember Aldama. You're correct. We value citizen participation in Glendale. In speaking with that, the Planning Department does staff a number of boards and commissions. The Planning Commission, which you chaired a number of years ago.
Yes.
The General Plan Steering Committee, which we'll talk a little bit about momentarily with respect to the General Plan update. The Historic Preservation Commission, which administers the 10 historic districts. Most of them are located in the Ocotillo District in the downtown area. And then finally, the Board of Adjustment, which is a panel that really reviews applications where a property owner might need a little bit of relief from a building setback, either maybe wanting to add a patio cover or a room addition. They can't quite meet the building setbacks, so that's what the Board of Adjustment does. We do value the citizen participation efforts of all of our boards and commissions, and generally before any of those applications would go before those boards and commissions, the applicant would need to reach out and introduce the project to the surrounding property owners and to the neighborhood.
Sure. Thank you, Jon. Jon, the Planning Commission, they play a critical role in decision making for land use. Can you speak briefly on the decisions they make, on the recommendations to council?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember. The Planning Commission plays a very critical part in the land use and development and redevelopment efforts for the city. Their recommendations are generally forwarded on to the City Council, so the Planning Commission does play that critical role early on in the process. So after the Planning Department reviews the land use application, usually there's some give and take, and there's some submittals and resubmittals that go through our normal review process. Once staff gets the project in a situation where we feel it's appropriate and complementary of the neighborhood and the general plan, then we'll advance that to the Planning Commission. They'll make a recommendation, and then again, that would be forwarded on to the City Council for final consideration. So
Jon, as many of our commissions, the role they take is very important. In the Planning Commission specifically, the decisions they make can have a huge impact on business owners or even homeowners when they choose to rezone or zone their business or home. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We typically would think that the average life of a building, a new building in Glendale, would be at least 50 years. So if the Planning Commission makes a recommendation on a project that's, let's just say, a new shopping center on the corner of an arterial street, we would expect that that development is probably going to be there for decades. So the decision making of the Planning Commission is certainly very important, and we value that.
Yes, we all value, the entire city of Glendale values the Planning Department, but also the commissioners in the Planning Department and all of our various commissions. So thank you for that, Jon. Jon, last year you provided presentations to the City Council on the General Plan Update. Tell our viewers about the General Plan Update and why it is important.
Councilmember Aldama, this is the city's current general plan. This was adopted by Glendale voters in 2002.
Okay.
And eventually approved by the mayor and council back in that time frame. All cities that are larger than 50,000 in population, whether it's a city or town in Arizona, by state law, has to have a general plan. The general plan is basically the blueprint, if you will, for future land use. every property in Glendale would have a land use general plan designation on it, whether it's residential, commercial, industrial, office. There's a number of categories that would be found on the general plan. We're in the midst of the 10-year update right now. We're looking forward to bringing that and advancing it through the General Plan Steering Committee, who's helping us guide that effort.
Sure.
The 10-year update will go to Planning Commission and City Council in 2016, and then we would anticipate that would go to Glendale voters in August of 2016 for their consideration.
John, thank you. And if I'm correct, the general plan of 2025, many things have changed since then, which would be part of the prompt to have another general plan. Talk a little bit about the committee that's the General Plan Steering Committee.
Yes, thank you. The General Plan Steering Committee is appointed by the City Council. There's about 28 to 30 members. They're from all walks of life throughout Glendale. They represent all of our citizens throughout the city, north, south, east, and west. They've been a great committee to work with. We value their time and effort. They're meeting on a monthly basis right now. What our goal is that we'll basically build a community-based plan based on what we're hearing from the steering committee. And so we expect that they'll be meeting monthly now and really with us through August as we prepare for the primary election next year.
Yes, and as I take it, it's a very diverse commission in that many of them have different views of the city and where they feel the city needs to go. So it's really important that we have that citizen participation. So thank you for sharing with us a little bit of that committee, John. Thank you. John, in addition to having presented the general plan update to the council last year, I understand you're making every effort to reach out to the community. One, by attending council members' district meetings. Tell us about your efforts and the response from constituents when presenting on the general plan update at these meetings.
Councilmember Aldama, we have, like I said, a very excellent group on our steering committee. As you indicated, it's a very diverse group from all parts of the city of Glendale. We have representation from a couple of universities. We have representation from Luke Air Force Base, from the Chamber of Commerce, and just the average Glendale citizen that wants to be involved in the decision-making for future land uses. What we're doing right now is, in addition to the steering committee meetings, we're also going out, as you indicated, to each of the 6 council districts and trying to get the word out. So far, we've done 3 of those meetings. The attendance has been very good. The reception to the general plan update has been very warmly received. And again, we're looking for that citizen input, and we'll continue to do so throughout the rest of 2015, as well as into the next year in 2016.
Well, John, it's really important that we use the citizens as a template for setting the standard of Glendale and where we're really going to go in Glendale, what our future of Glendale is going to be. So I appreciate all of the participation with the citizens. I understand there's also some interactive exercises that go on within the committee, so that's really important, so they have an interactive role in this committee. John, what is Envision Glendale 2040?
Envision Glendale 2040 is the working title for the general plan update. The current general plan from 2002 is called Glendale 2025, the next step. Basically what a city and town is looking to do in a general plan, whether it's the current general plan or the general plan update in the case of Glendale, is really looking long term. As I said before, it's really a blueprint for the long-term physical development of the city and what Glendale might want to be when it grows up. What's happened since 2002 versus 2015 and 2016 as we move forward with Glendale 2040 is the Loop 101 continues to emerge as a very strong economic engine for Glendale. We're already looking at the Loop 303 and Northern Parkway as additional economic engines for the city, as well as a good transportation network for the city. And so a lot of things have changed over the last decade, and we basically want to position the city for the next 10, 15, 20 years of growth throughout the entire portion of the city of Glendale.
Thank you, John. Yeah, you mentioned the Loop 303 and the West Valley corridor out there. Not many Glendale residents, I should say a lot of them do know about the annexation out there. It's a really dynamic area of Glendale, and it's growing, and its future is really in balance, and that's what this planning committee is going to have a look at and have a role in shaping and informing that. So thank you for mentioning that. If there are residents watching our show that have not had the opportunity to provide input on the general plan update, how can they do so, John?
There are a number of ways for anybody to get involved. We have established a website that anybody can access at any time that they'd like. It's www.glendale2040.com. We would encourage any kind of participation from people that are interested, whether it's a business owner, a property owner, investor, or a Glendale citizen. One of the neat things on the website is we've established a interactive program called SMAP, and we were getting a little bit of assistance from a planning consulting firm based in Phoenix who's helping us with the general plan update. Staff can't do everything by themselves. So we've hired Matrix Design Group. They've used the SMAP program on other general plan updates that they've done throughout Arizona. It's kind of a fun little exercise. You can create your own map and look at different things that you might think are good ideas for the city. I did it, prepared my own SMAP on a Sunday afternoon, just playing around a little bit and looking at different things that you can plan. There's basically, there's icons that you can place throughout the city. We are looking for input from residents. So if somebody has an idea, say, for redeveloping downtown Glendale, which is in the Ocotillo District, there are opportunities to provide that input either via SMAP or just contact us, and our information is available on that website that I mentioned.
Once the General Plan Steering Committee completes this process, what are the next steps?
The next steps is we hope to have a recommendation from the steering committee in early 2016. We will then advance the general plan update to the Planning Commission. Because this is a citywide update and it's considered what's known as a major general plan amendment, we'll need to have 2 Planning Commission public hearings. Normally on a land use application, we'd only need 1.
Correct.
With a major update like this, we really need to get out and have the Planning Commission conduct 1 public hearing at the council chambers like they normally would, and then we'll have actually a remote Planning Commission public hearing at a different location off-site somewhere in the city. Once the Planning Commission makes their recommendation on the general plan update, we will then advance that to mayor and council, probably through a workshop first, just to reintroduce the general plan to council, and then eventually to a voting meeting in mid-2016. And then finally, that recommendation will be sent to Glendale voters in the primary election next year.
Correct. Another example of why it's so important for our planning commissioners and all of our commissions and the roles they take, what you just talked about. So it's really important that we take their considerations to council, and then we cast a vote on those recommendations. So thank you, John.